Welcome once again to our weekly news roundup. I'm Alvin for OG Tech, and here are the news. Our first story is, as Google ponders making ad blocking a little bit harder or less useful, Mozilla ramps up their tracker blocking. And next is Xiaomi explains more about their under-screen camera and how it actually works. And last story is video games aren't corrupting young minds. From old media scaring us. But actually, this new study says video games aren't corrupting young minds. They may be building them instead. So, here are the news. Our first story, Google found itself in hot water again this week after critics said that the company was considering weakening ad blockers and on the company's browser, which is Chrome. The changes were part of the company's broader Manifest v3 roadmap. The changes were Google claims that it was supposed to improve browser performance and extension security. However, consumer groups and ad block extension companies or developers weren't buying Google's claims. Instead, they say that the changes will make the ad blockers they're developing more useful and effective by prohibiting them from pre-blocking ads instead of shifting blocking to Chrome itself. Essentially, the ad blockers now are pre-blocking ads before it even reaches Chrome. However, Google wants it that the decision must be made by Chrome itself rather than the ad blocker. So it'll be less useful because, of course, Google runs on ads, and if they say, this ad is okay, it's fine, it'll go through your browser. It won't be blocked. So as it stands, many ad block extensions use Chrome's web request API, letting users block ads before they even reach your browser. But with Google's proposal, it would require extensions use the declarative net request API, which leaves it to the browser to decide which gets blocked and which does not, which is less useful than pre-blocking ads beforehand, of course. While Google continues to deny any ill intent with their plans, that's going to be left to consumers to decide. And should Google continue down the road to making ad blockers less useful, Mozilla seems to intend to fill the void. As we discussed with previous shows, I really implore our viewers to try Mozilla because for me, it's faster. It consumes less RAM than Chrome, and of course, privacy is more accentuated in Mozilla. So, you might consider switching to Mozilla real soon, especially with this breaking news. Next, Xiaomi. Xiaomi has shown their under-screen camera, which means that in the pursuit of a full screen or full display phone, they're planning to move the camera instead of the current trend where the back camera switches to the front, like in the Samsung A70 or I think it's A80 or something like that. It's the A series phone where it pops up and then it flips to the front. Xiaomi says that their under-screen display will work perfectly for this new full-screen display where it says the camera is embedded in the top of the device as usual, but instead of putting a border around it or the notch, which is very ugly for me, and cutting a hole in the screen, the camera is instead covered with a special low reflective glass with high transmittance, which means it can transmit light from the outside of the display and goes back to the sensor. Xiaomi says the setup allows the area of the display to become transparent to take pictures, and the transparent display then cleverly doubles as the camera lens on top. Xiaomi also notes that by trying to make the camera and therefore the inevitable notch as small as possible, the transparent display system allows for a larger sensor and better image quality than existing teardrop notches. So not only will this solve the notch problem, as you know, most people like me don't like the notch design. It also allows Xiaomi to design better sensors, since your screen itself will act as a lens. So bigger lens, better image quality. You know. So, our last story is video games aren't actually corrupting young minds. I'm sorry, old people. They're not. They're actually, there's a new study where it's emerging that suggests the moral panic about video games is misguided, and that many video games can be benign or even beneficial by helping with social and intellectual development. It says here, researchers are exploring the use of games as a tool in education and even as therapeutic tools for anxiety and depression. According to Canadian researcher Isabella Granick, chair and professor in the Developmental Psychopathology Department at Radboud University in the Netherlands, the research suggests that there's little good evidence to support the notion that video games are harmful. Instead, it helps children. Addiction is another concern often cited. Earlier this week, the World Health Organization classified video game addiction as a mental health disorder. Granick prefers to use the term compulsive use instead of addiction, and says that there's no real evidence that indicate video games are much different than other hobbies. On the other hand, she said that vast majority of kids are only playing 1 to 3 hours per day, and she said these games are usually socially played with friends online from school, either the same room or online. She suggests this digital playground is not too different from the analog one that older generation played on. So essentially, video games are nothing more than, you know, the electronic equivalent of playing in the playground. It builds your social skills and essentially helps you in developing your mind as a kid. So that's it for our 3 stories for this week. Once again, thank you for watching, and links to our social media are always on below, and please like our Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Alvin, and see you again next week. All right.
I forgot the clap at the start.